Hey everyone, welcome to the Bookish and Brilliant YouTube channel. My name is Kenna. I am so excited to be starting this new little project in 2024. Don't really know what I'm doing, don't really know what to expect, but just thought that this would be a fun little expansion of my Bookstagram that I started about 2 years ago. And just a new little adventure, a new little thing to create content for, since I've loved doing it so much over the past 2 years. Something that I felt like was kind of a good way to start off the channel, do a first video on, was talking about books that I think you should be reading in 2024, or books that you should be adding to your TBR in 2024 if you have not read them already. 2023 was a fantastic year for me for reading. I learned a lot about my preferences, what I like, and found some different genres, some new authors that I really loved. My goal for this year was to read 100 books, which is something I don't think that I have done ever in a single year, maybe when I was younger, but it was a challenge and definitely a push for me. Will I do it again next year? I don't know, we'll see. First, before we get started into this list, I will say that I am a fantasy reader. It is probably my genre of choice. If I had to pick any to read all the time, fantasy would be my go-to. Looking at the list that I had created, most of these are going to be fantasy books as well. So if that's not something that you're super into, you want maybe another list of some other genres later on down the road, let me know in the comments if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing in the future, and we'll get to some of those other recommendations later. So let's go ahead and talk about number one spot on my list. Books that you should be reading in 2024 are Crescent City series from Sarah J. Maas. Now, I know these books are ginormous, but man, are they worth it, in my opinion at least. I love Sarah J. Maas. I think her writing and the stories that she's told and the books that I've read are fantastic. I read the Throne of Glass series for the first time this year, and I went through all of the roller coaster of emotions with that series, but I think Crescent City still takes the cake for me. Now, book number 3 is coming out at the end of January of this next year. So if you have not read these yet, I would highly recommend doing so. If you thought the FOMO of not reading Fourth Wing was bad, I imagine if you have not read the series when book 3 comes out, the FOMO is going to be like 1,000 times worse. All right, second spot on the list goes to the Shepherd King duology by Rachel Gillig. These books changed my brain chemistry. I still think about these books on the daily. It is a completed duology, so you won't have to wait for another book. But the sad thing about duologies is there's only 2 of the books, so enjoy them while they last. I know One Dark Window came out in 2022, I believe. I was lucky enough to get a ARC copy for Two Twisted Crowns, so I got to read it a little bit earlier than the release date when it came out this year. And oh my goodness, the way that this book plays with your emotions, makes you feel things, the way that the story and the characters within the story make you feel things and make you feel the emotions that you do is just incredible. Rachel, I love you. Fabulous books. One of my favorite reads of this year. Two Twisted Crowns, One Dark Window is the first book, Two Twisted Crowns is the second book. The Shepherd King series is the name of the series, and it is fabulous. Next spot on the list is going to go to the Prison Healer trilogy by Lynette Noni. Now, this is a series that I listened to the audiobooks of, and I'm currently almost done with the 3rd audiobook, and it's just fantastic. So I think this is the perfect series for anyone that is looking for a fantasy book that has a lot of interesting politics and character development, some found family relationships as well. It definitely starts to slowly increase in things like action and romance throughout the series, but it's been one that was really, I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. Next up on our list is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Again, this is another book that I constantly go back to and think about the story and just how it all played out. Now, I know there are multiple books in the series. The author is still releasing books in the series, but I read the first book just a few months ago, and I was just utterly surprised at how good this book was. It's a mixture of like fantasy and mystery, honestly, but it follows Signa, who is an orphaned young woman that has bounced around from various family members because of her family members basically end up dying whenever they come into she comes into their care. And we come to find out that Signa has this ability to see death, the personification of death himself. And this new family that she goes to towards the beginning of the book, there has been a death recently in their family. So it's a mixture of solving this mystery of what happened to her relatives, specifically what caused her aunt's untimely death, as well as this story between Signa and Death himself, how their relationship develops, little romance story, and you just have to read it for yourself because I can only do it so much justice describing it. Highly recommend. I will definitely be letting you know what I think about the rest of the series when I get to reading it, but one of my top books for 2023. Alright, last up on the list today is the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent. For me, this was a book that satisfied my cravings for a romantasy read towards the end of 2023 and completely took over my life for about 2 weeks as I read through them. The first book is called The Serpent and the Wings of the Night. The second book is called The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. These were the type of books that I stayed up and read until 2-3 a.m. because I wanted to just not put it down. I wanted to find out what happened. Basically follows the story of Aurea, who was a human adopted by the Vampire King. She enters into this competition that is put on by one of their goddesses to find a champion, and if you win, you get a wish from this goddess granted. But once she enters into this competition, she meets Rain, forms this alliance with him, and essentially the series is just how the events of that competition unfold and what happens afterwards as well. One qualm that I have, or one kind of thing that I will say about it, is it is very information heavy at the beginning of the first book, but it has to set up a lot of stuff in order for you to understand events that happen later on in the book and in the series. So once you get to about, I would say, 20% in, just keep reading and I promise you it gets so good. Okay, that's gonna do it for today for books that I think that you should be reading in 2024 if you have not already. Go ahead and subscribe for more book content, book recommendations, and book reviews. I'm really excited for what this is and what this is to become, so I look forward to making some more videos, more content to put on here that's separate from my Bookstagram as well. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, the link to my profile will be down below in the comments, as well as don't forget to subscribe for future videos on the channel. Stay bookish, stay brilliant, readers, and I'll see you in the next video.